While exploring out here in nature, you may think this tree, snail, fungus, these flowers, lichen, this turtle, and onion don't have much in common on the outside. What, you don't just always have an onion? Internally, they're all made of the same building blocks. What led to this discovery, and what exactly are those building blocks? Let's find out together in this episode all about the cell theory. It might surprise you that scientists once thought that life just spontaneously appeared from non-living things, even though that would be the best magic trick ever. Another one? They were way off. It's not really their fault, though. There was no experience, evidence, or information to lead them to believe that anything else was possible. Thanks to the invention and continued development of the microscope, and tons of experimentation and observation, we now know that life comes from pre-existing life, and that life is made of cells. Cells are the basic building blocks of life. Like blocks, cells can come in a variety of shapes and have different features and functions as well. Take this lichen from earlier. If we zoom way in, we can see it's made up of many smaller units. These units are called cells. Cells can stand alone to make up the most simple of organisms, or they can work together to support organisms that are larger and more complex. Our human bodies contain trillions of cells, not millions, not billions, but trillions. Each and every organism on Earth is made of cells. The discovery of the cell wouldn't have been possible without the invention and continued advancement of the microscope and several scientists throughout time, building on each other's discoveries. Cells are small, like so small our human eyes can't observe them without help, which is why no one even knew they existed until the invention of microscopes. A scientist named Robert Hooke improved the existing design of the compound microscope. In 1665, while using his new design to look at thin slices of cork, he noticed small box-like structures. To him, the cork looked as if it were made of tiny pores, which he came to call cells, because they reminded him of the cells in a monastery. This discovery was groundbreaking, but because the cork cells weren't living cells, he wasn't able to observe any internal structures. Even so, his work was foundational for further investigation. Guys. Not long after Hooke's discovery, Antonie Van Leeuwenhoek, a Dutch scientist and lens maker, used a more advanced microscope to examine pretty much everything he could. He observed living cells in pond water and dental scrapings, which is just a nice way of saying the nasty junk on your teeth. This is why we floss. He was able to directly observe living cells and living and moving unicellular organisms. I gathered some pond water earlier. Maybe we can observe something similar. To Van Leeuwenhoek, these organisms looked like little tiny animals, so he called them animalcules, which in my opinion really should have stuck. His findings were the first recorded observations of living, moving cells, moving us one step closer to modern cell theory. If you're still here, liking this video, let us know, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Fast forward to the 1800s, where two German scientists have discovered something that, again, we might find super obvious today, but helped bring together what we now know as the cell theory. The first scientist was Matthias Schleiden, who studied plants using a microscope. After years of studying countless different plant species, the light bulb went off. Every single plant he looked at was made of, you got it, cells, which he proposed as a general principle of biology. At the same time, Virchow Schwann, who conducted similar research with animal tissues, eventually reached the same conclusion, observing that all animal tissues were also made of cells. Together, they developed the first version of the cell theory, which stated that all living organisms are composed of cells, which are the basic unit of life. Now, we're getting somewhere. Just a side note. Both scientists were able to observe cells reproducing, but they had no clue what was really going on. They had creative theories, but, well, they were wrong. Finally, in the 1850s, another scientist named Rudolf Virchow shared research that showed that cells did in fact come from other cells. This was research that was borrowed from another scientist named Robert Remak. Science drama. Cells were observed dividing under a microscope, and it was concluded that new cells are created only from pre-existing cells. This completed the core ideas of the cell theory and helped explain things like how organisms reproduce, repair themselves, and grow. In time, scientists put all of their observations together to come up with the cell theory. These are the three main principles. All living things are made of cells, one or more. This means that all living things, including plants, animals, bacteria, and fungi, are all made of cells. Some living things, like the examples we observed in the pond water sample, are made of one cell and are called unicellular organisms. Each organism is a single cell that's responsible for reproduction, taking in nutrients, and doing all the jobs that it needs to stay alive. While other living things, such as plants and animals, are made up of many cells and are called multicellular organisms. Which reminds me, we should look at this under the microscope. This onion is multicellular. We can observe all of the different cells that make up this tiny sample. The cell is the basic building block of life in structure and function. Cells are the smallest unit that can carry out all of the tasks necessary for life. These tasks include things like taking in nutrients and water, getting rid of wastes, getting and using energy, and interacting with the environment. So a single-celled organism is going to perform all of those tasks within its one cell. That one cell has specialized structures to perform these tasks. Multicellular organisms are even more specialized and have different cells to perform different functions. For example, a blood cell performs a different function than a muscle cell does. Every cell comes from another existing cell. Cells divide to form new cells. Cells divide to make copies of themselves, but not like this. Cells do not just pop up spontaneously or form from non-living things. They divide to form new organisms, which is reproduction. Cells also divide to allow an organism to grow or replace or repair damaged cells. If early scientists had a microscope, we probably wouldn't have gotten hung up on that spontaneous generation theory for so long. But that's how scientific advancement works. Who knows what scientific theories we have right now that will be debunked by future scientific advancement. Science is all about building on the work of past scientists as tools advance and observations are made. Maybe I'll discover something new in this pond water. And if you want to learn more science, you can check out this video next.